Welcome to this video where we're going to look at creating a composite image in Photoshop. And so the idea with a composite is that you're taking a variety of images and then bringing them together to create a new image. And so I'm going to show you a bunch of different techniques here. And in the end, you're going to use these skills that you pick up in this tutorial to create your own composite image. So what have we got here? Well, we've got a bunch of different images here. So I've got in my compositing here, and you can kind of see what we're doing. So there's a variety of stuff, and we've got different clouds, and we've got this pier, sailboat, and so we're going to put all of these together to create sort of this dreamscape. And like I said, once we get through this one, you'll be able to do your own. So just follow along here. So the first thing we'll do is drag in two images that will start the composting process. So I'm going to drag in the pier first, and then I'm going to drag in the sunset as well. Okay, and so I just make Photoshop bigger. Now I've got a little bit of an issue here with this being a bit smaller. It's not appreciably smaller, so I'm just going to make it just at least go over the edge there. Okay, so that's good. So I've got my two images. I've just turned off the lock there on the background too, just to make sure. And then what we're going to do is we're going to line up the horizons basically. So I just want to have to reduce the opacity here on, whoops, not on that one, sorry, on the sunset. And then that way I can just see where they both are. And so if I look here, I can kind of see the two sunsets, and I'm just going to place that just underneath the one below. There it is. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is just pull that opacity back up, and I'm going to basically use a layer mask with a gradient to blend the two. And so I'll just make sure I turn on that layer mask that you're more familiar with now. I'm going to choose my gradient tool over here, and I'm going to choose this third one. And what it does is it really leaves it black near the bottom and then really light near the top, and just gives us some shades of gray here. And that will just let the two layers sort of merge there. So I'm just going to come up just below the horizon. I'm going to hold shift to make sure it's straight. Just bring it a little bit above and just let it go. So what it's done is it's blacked out the sunset part on the bottom, and gave us a little bit of a gradient there, so to blend the two horizons, and then left that sort of fancier sunset on top. A really good way to take, mix the skies. Obviously it's easier with an ocean because the horizon is completely horizontal. The next thing we're going to do is put a sort of that north symbol on the pathway here. And so again, I'm just going to grab that from the folder there. There's the north one, and just bring it in. Okay. And again, it's obviously too big. Okay, so we'll change the size there in a second. We're also going to change the blending mode. So blending modes are these kind of neat things that sort of change up the image a bit depending on what's below it. And I'm going to set this to overlay. So let me I always forget where overlay is. There it is. Okay, and it sort of blocks that out a little bit. Now obviously it's too big. I'm going to bring it down because we're going to lay it on this pier. Okay, don't make it too small because we're going to do something else as well. So get it roughly the size. Okay, that's fine. Something like that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to actually distort it. So at the moment, if I just left it like that, obviously it doesn't look all that good. And the second part is that it doesn't even look like it's on the surface. We want this to look like it's on the surface. So what I'm going to do is come up to Image or Edit, or actually set that up to be there first. Come down to Image, Transform, and there's one called Distort. And so what it's done is it's brought in these little points here. And I can move them individually. And what I'm going to do is move them right to each corner. And you can see how that N now appears more like it's on there. Now we're not quite done. We need to pull this corner out. And we want to pull this corner out. One thing we want to do is make sure it's kind of a little bit over the edge. Okay, we'll fix that up in a second, so that the whole pier becomes a bit lighter. Okay, so I'm just kind of happy with that. There we go. Okay, so it's looking pretty good there. It looks like it's on that ground. You could reduce the opacity if you think it's sitting up a little bit too much. Okay. Now this little bit of an issue here is easily resolved by our good old friend, the layer mask. So I'm going to put a layer mask in there. Okay. And I want to remove this bit, so I'm going to mask it. I'm going to go for a brush. It's pretty small and definitely soft. So I'm going to take my hardness, make it down there, and I'm just going to work my way. Just little strokes. And you can even do a better job than I am. And you got something like that. All right. So already we've incorporated 3 images here, and it's looking kind of neat. We've got a different sunset, and we've got this sitting on our dock or our pier here. So I end this lesson here, and we'll bring in the next major part in the next video.